All right, all right. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Real Deal, the second episode of the day. Let's go. All right, welcome to the second episode of the day. I am your host, as always, Courtney Harden, The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. You know where to find it. All Spotify, Google Play, Apple, Roku TV, BS3 Network, BS3TVLive.com. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Courtney Harden, at Get The Real Deal as well. Want to get those intros out of the way. So real quick, but I always say, if you Google The Real Deal with Courtney Harden, you can find all the content everywhere. So it's on all podcast platforms. You find my socials there as well. But it's fantasy football season. Fantasy football never ends at all. So we talk about it all the time. It's never too early, as I said on the intro. But I have the one and only Bob Lung on the show today. I mean, he is when you talk about fantasy football, fantasy circles, and things like that, his name comes up. He's a big part of it as well. The Fantasy Football Expo, he does that. He's the big guy fantasy sports. Just going through what you have, Fantasy Football Consistency Guide, which has been that's what it's called, Consistency Guide. So the new one just launched. The new magazine just launched the 2023 version, which I'm getting my copy today as well. So thank you, Bob, for coming on to the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Always honored to be a guest on anybody's show. And I know you've been pretty excited. I've seen a lot of hype out there for it. So thank you for spreading the love, and looking forward to talking about all the cool things going on this summer.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited. This will be my first Fantasy Football Expo. Been wanting to go for the last couple of years.
Yep.
Finally had the time to actually do it. I was telling my wife, I said, I think I want to go this year. She said, get your tickets. She said, get your ticket and head on over there and everything too. I tried to get her to come too, but she said, I wouldn't know. But I said, you can still go, even just going to Canton too. But I ended up getting my tickets, so I'll be going solo, trying to get the team, the network to come too. So we're working on that. But if not, I'm going to be there as a fan and just to connect. So I really, like I said, I really appreciate what you do. And you said the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide, nominated as one of the best for 6 straight years. So I'm not going to shortchange that introduction for that. So congratulations on that as well. So, but how are you doing? How's everything going? I know you've been busy with the content and just spreading the word, but first and foremost, how's everything going with the content and how you're doing?
Yeah, no, like you said, having a full-time job and then having a full-time job called fantasy football.
Yes.
2 full-time jobs is rough. Literally for like the whole month of April, my poor wife, I'd go to work all day, come home, eat dinner, and then we'd go upstairs and sit in front of my computer and work on the guide, always trying to get it prepared. So it's basically, as soon as the draft is over, I can make adjustments for, who I think might move up or down, based on which teams drafted who. And so I can have the guide out. I always try to get it out early May. May 1st is the goal, but when the draft ends on April 30th, it's tough. I always like when the draft's like April 23rd. That gives me that extra week.
That week, yeah.
But no, it's been super busy. But it's also, it's not work if you enjoy it, right? So I never classify as a work. I'm always excited to get the book out, get people excited about the importance of consistency in fantasy football, which players hold that title, because a lot of people are surprised sometimes, like, oh, I drafted this guy last year, and for some reason I don't understand. He was one of the top 10 scorers, and I'm like, well, his consistency percentage was 56%. That means barely half the games that he really help your team, and a lot of people don't realize that, and that's what the importance is. And I started this 20 years ago, and I tell people I'll pretty much be going to my grave talking about consistency in fantasy football and promoting it and telling people why, and so it's just been something that's been going on for 20 years. Like you said, the book's been out for about 7 or 8, 6 times nominated, honored by the Fantasy Sports Writers of America, won it in 2018. But I'm always just honored to make it, because I'm always there with NBC Sports and football diehards, and like I just even mentioned in the same name is good enough for me.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a great honor, just like I said, just to be part of that NBC Sports and football, all those publications, all those networks and things like that. So let's talk a little bit about your background into fantasy sports before we get into the Expo and all that. You said you've been doing it for 20 years. What got you into fantasy football? That'd be the first question. And did you ever think that it would be as big as it is going to, starting way back when we were getting scores from newspapers? Because I've been doing it since 90. Oh goodness, this is in 90 something. It was 98. It was in the 90s, the late 90s.
Yeah, right. I actually started playing in 1985.
Okay.
So the 20 years is when I started writing about, and I came up with the consistency model and writing of it. That's what I've been doing for 20 years. Right. But yeah, for 35, what are we at now? 30, I don't know.
Yeah,
long time.
Yes.
It's always funny because a lot of times when I get interviewed on podcasts, the person interviewing me hadn't been born when I started playing. And they're like, 85. I was born in 92. And I'm like, sorry.
I was born in 79, so I was 6 years old. There you go.
But yeah, I mean, my buddy brought home this little book by a guy named Chris Charpentier called Playing Fantasy Football. We read it and we said, hey, this sounds like a blast. Let's get all our buddies together. And that league still exists. I think we still have more than half of the original members still play touchdown only, because we're purists, because that was the only way to do it back then, because you had to do it by hand.
Yep.
I luckily had a computer at my work because I worked at an accounting firm. So I actually had Lotus 123 to do my spreadsheet.
Okay.
Because Microsoft Office didn't exist yet.
It didn't exist at that time.
And yeah, so it just kept doing it. We actually held our drafts. Our first drafts were all held in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because it's right down the street from me. And we asked if we could borrow their boardroom to have the draft. So we called our league, HOFFL, Hall of Fame Fantasy Football League. And it's still called that today. And, like I said, we were way cool before fantasy football was ever cool.
Right.
In fact, when we asked the Hall of Fame if they would charge us for the boardroom to have a fantasy football draft, the look that I got from this lady is like, a what?
What's that?
Don't worry about it. It's just rough. But yeah, to see where we're at today. I mean, I really did always dream to have this Expo idea in Canton, because I also drive for the Hall of Fame as a volunteer for Hall of Fame weekend. So I've driven everybody from Al Davis to John Madden to Brian Dawkins to Kurt Warner, and I saw them grow this thing into a 5-day extravaganza. And I thought, man, we should do a fantasy football thing like that someday, and I talked to people and they're like, oh, okay, cool idea, but they never thought it would be something worth doing. So I just finally ended up doing it on my own, and here we are.
Wow. I mean, that's a journey in itself. Just to, you said from 1985 starting there. And like I said, I started in 97, 98 with my cousin. He was playing fantasy. And I've always, we heard about it and things like that. So how do you want to get into a league? Just how do I get into this? How do I get into this? So at the high school, I was working with him, and he was already playing fantasy basketball at the time. And he was like, oh yeah, do the stats. He said, you're good at all that stuff. You talk about it and things like that. So just get a team, just draft a team and get into it. It's like, okay, that's it. And then just watch, you got to watch the game. You watch the games and the stats and things like that. And you collect points, things like that. So that's how I got into fantasy sports, just doing that and getting involved into it. And then did football and did baseball, basketball. I mean, anything I could get my hands on. And as you said, at that time, it was just like watching. You had to watch the games, and then newspapers, USA Today would come out with the stats every week after the games, and you're just going through and calculating your own stats and things like that. And then the internet blew up.
Putting the results in 12 envelopes to mail them out. Mail with stamps. And then we'd come home from church on Sunday morning, and then my answer machine had 43 messages from all the guys who were, leaving their rosters and their lineups for the week, and changes at the last minute because they just heard, because again, we didn't have the internet. So they just heard, they were watching the pre-gaming, and whoever back in the day, Ron Jaworski just said that this guy's not going to play and I got to make a change.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's how we did it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the thing now that you can do it on your phone and go, oh, it made a change. Click, done, fixed.
Yes. just change the lineup and there you go. Yep,
Yeah.
and then there's so much news too, like on the tip of your fingertips now from back then. You said you had to watch Sports Center, you had to watch the breaking news coming in, and it's like, oh, I gotta change. Oh, I'm gonna change the lineup. This is like I said before internet. So anyone listening, this is before internet times, before social media and things like that. So, but just to go back to it, said how it has progressed now. You've seen it, how it progressed. What do you think of the progression of how fantasy sports have come now? Now you can say on the click of a button now on your computer or on your phone.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't, obviously the advancements of technology made this all that big. If we still all had to do this by hand, I don't know if we'd have 60 million people playing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, at first it was computers, then it was internet, then it was, and then finally it took a long time before it got to the phone level. But now it's, but on the other hand, as much as I enjoy, everybody plays and it's just an easy conversation. It drives my wife crazy because we'll go somewhere and I'll just walk, I'll just meet some people, I don't know them. Hi, my name's, meet a husband, wife, or just a person, and first thing I say, play fantasy football, and then my wife just rolls her eyes like, oh, here we go
again. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, but on the other hand, I also feel like it was fun in the old days because getting an edge was so hard to do.
Yes.
But you got it, so I always used to talk about when I would drive for Hall of Fame weekend, there would be lots of coaches, and, I'd be like, hey, Bill Parcells, who are you going to start running back this year? Or, hey, and so you try to grab that from them because you're like, oh, this is the only way I'm going to get this information, and I literally would hunt some of these guys down, if I saw them at Hall of Fame weekend, and I'm like, hey, Bill Parcells, what do you got? A couple of years ago, I drove, even now I got some inside scoop. A couple of years ago, I drove John Lynch when he was inducted, and obviously super nice guy. And so we were just chatting. Of course, I didn't tell him anything about my background. And I'm like, what are your thoughts of Deebo Samuels versus Brandon Ayuk? And, just wondering, who you see, stepping up. And he goes, Deebo is just crushing it preseason. And Brandon's he's kind of got some work to kind of catch up. But Deebo just, and so I told everybody at the Expo, and this was 2021. And of course, that was the year that Deebo ended up third in fantasy points and consistency. And so, everybody's like texting me going, hey, can you ask John Lynch again about it?
Like, who else are you going to meet? Who else are you going to run into to get the edge? And you're right. And I think that's the difference. Like when you found an edge back then, just any type of edge, you didn't tell anyone. You kept it to yourself. You're like, you're trying to win your league, especially if it's money. You're trying to win your league. Now everybody has an edge. Everybody knows.
Oh yeah.
There's just so much information. I mean, I don't know if it's information overload, but it can be because if you're following so many people. I mean, I love the fantasy community. As you said, we've been doing it for so many years, and you just love to talk fantasy football, particularly, and how the growth. But you're listening to so many podcasts, listening to so many things. And you start setting your lineups up. You're like, who am I going to start? Start, sit, and you start. And sometimes you make those mistakes because you listen to so much, and everybody has different opinions. I guess you got to just narrow it down to who you really trust and who you really, really invest in of their information, and then you take your own information, and then you start your lineups. But it's a lot, but it's great. It's great because it's fun to listen to and to play.
Yeah.
So but I do kind of miss the old school ways of that. But I don't want to do all the writing either and hunting down. Where am I gonna find these stats? Now there's just stats for everything. Everything. So let's talk about the Expo. Let's get into that and how that started. You said it's Hall of Fame. and things like that. What made you want to start the Expo? You talked a little bit about that, but talk about the background of how you started it and where it is today. And what do people expect when they go to the Expo, me included?
Yeah, no, definitely. So like I said, as I was going through years and years of driving and watching the Hall of Fame, I mean, when I was a kid, this is, 70s, 80s, my dad, my grandfather, and I would go to the Hall. I mean, it was a 2-day event, really almost a day and a half. And so Saturday, the parade was in the morning. It's actually the largest non-holiday parade in the country. All the Hall of Famers, all the people go down the streets of Canton. They would literally get off the parade route, go to the inductions that was on the steps of the Hall of Fame. There may be 200 people in lawn chairs. It was free admission. You just stand there, sit in a lawn chair. Families were down on the in front of the steps. But like I said, 200, maybe 300 people. They would do the inductions, and football game would be right after it, like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was done. And, I went to most of those things, watched these players do that. And now this is a 5-day extravaganza with, 23,000 people in the football stadium and, concerts and all kinds of stuff included now. And so, like I said, as I got deeper into the football world, fantasy football world, and especially gaining a lot of, I'll call it street cred from all the people that I knew, and they knew I was in Canton. And so I just always had in my mind, they call Hall of Fame weekend football's greatest weekend. It's kind of their tagline. Yeah. And I always said, man, I want to create fantasy football's greatest weekend. The weekend after, because it's perfect timing. Yeah. Town is dead. I mean, it's dead 90% of the time anyway. Very small town, Midwest USA, outside of Hall of Fame. It's pretty dry. And so, but I always envisioned this idea of having the best of the best draft in the Hall of Fame, because they did this for years with the baseball. If you follow fantasy baseball, they have two of them called Tout Wars and Labor, and they would have the best of the best. And they always went to cool places in New York. Sometimes they had them in the Sirius XM studios. Sometimes they had them the one time the year, this was 2019, they had them in the Staten Island minor league locker room. And every guy who was drafting had their name on a locker, they had a locker. Yeah. And I just thought that was so cool. I'm like, what a great idea. And so I finally, sent an email to, at that point I started to know, I knew Andy Behrens, I knew Mike Clay and Brad Evans. And I sent them an email and I said, hey guys, I go, what do you think about having a best of the best draft here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame? We'll do it the weekend after Hall of Fame weekend. You guys all come into town. I'll take care of setting everything up. We'll contact Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, see if they'll come to Canton, and let's put our own best of the best league together. And they loved it. And so they all came in. This is 2019, or I'm sorry, this is 2018. We did the draft. It was great. Sirius XM did a great job of promoting it. We are actually the third highest trending hashtag for the day or something on Twitter for fantasy sports. And it went great. And then, so after doing that, we all went to BW3s, local BW3s, hung out, chatted with all the guys. And I had said to them, I'm like, since you guys are coming in town, what if we did a expo, panel discussions and stuff the next day? They're like, yeah, that's a cool idea. We could, that would be fun. And so 2019 came, and I still wasn't bent on doing it yet because I felt like I still wasn't ready. I did not, but then a bunch of people went to the Tony Romo fantasy sports conference. It was in May.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And they all went to it. They spent a buttload of money. I even looked into going, but it was like $2,000 to get a booth. Ridiculous. Yeah. And but a bunch of them went, and they said it was not even close to being a fantasy football expo. Yeah, it was basically a football autograph session. Everybody was just walking around trying to get autographs because they had Ezekiel Elliott, Mahomes, and some of these guys. And so they were all complaining on Twitter. And I said, well, I had thought about doing this expo idea. We could do it the day after on Sunday and we could do it. We already have the Kings Classic. We could kind of have a, this get together on Saturday night, the thing, and we'll do the expo on Sunday. So I set up a little area, rented out some places, put it all together. I'd seen business expos before, so I kind of knew how that all worked, and put it together. We had 30 booths we sold. So we had 30 different, sites. We had like 75 attendees, Twitter didn't seem to be accepting to it at that point.
Yeah.
And so, but I didn't lose any money. So I'm like,
yeah,
this went okay. Now, I didn't know where to go from there. And then of course, COVID comes.
Yeah,
and
dreaded COVID.
It doesn't happen. So I was really worried that when people were like, hey, 2021, are we going to do this? And I'm like, well, so they're hounding me in March about August. And I said, well, we're going to have these vaccinations, and it appears that everybody should be fine by August. I guess we'll do this. And I didn't know what to expect. I thought, well, if I get 150 people, that would double it. And we got 500 because people wanted out of the house.
They want to get out. Yes. 2021, we were out. Yes.
Yeah. People didn't care if they got COVID, pneumonia, died. They didn't care. They just went out of the house. And then that grew into 750 last year. And next thing you know, boom, we've got Fantasy Football's Greatest Weekend. And I took a lot of recommendations of, parties and doing cornhole tournaments and flag football tournaments, and just making it into what I'd seen be done by the Hall of Fame themselves. When that weekend of Hall of Fame, there is never a dead moment. It's parties after parties and this and that. And, it's just, and I'm like, that's what I want it to be. I don't want people to be bored. I want people to be active and doing things and having fun and interacting. And that's why we do the party Friday night, Saturday night, do the flag football, do the cornhole tournament, then have the big expo all day Sunday with, 4 different panel discussions going on at the same time. And 50 booths. So this year we're inside this 100,000 square foot football field dome that we're going to have the expo in. So we have more than enough room because we've already outgrown the hotel that we had. So that's kind of all came about. To this day, I'm still just dumbfounded by the support and the love, and so we're going to keep making it bigger, better every year.
I love that. The great thing about it is, you said, it just brings people together for one, and there's so much content creators, so many fantasy sites, things like that. But just to get them all in one convention type of thing, expo, that you had a vision about that, and it's like, wow, it's grown larger and larger each and every year, and even COVID couldn't even stop it. So that's tremendous. Congrats on all that, and it just keeps getting big. Because I remember watching some of the video content that people had on their on their Instagram, things like that, and YouTube, and I'm like, I want to go to that because I love playing fantasy football. We have a podcast league. We've been doing a podcast for the last couple of years, and try to get some of them to come out too, so we might see them there. But I just want to meet up. There's a lot of people just to connect and just to be in that atmosphere. And I'm sure it's going to be overwhelming in some ways, but it's going to be fun too.
Yeah, the nice thing is you have multiple events, so you don't have to feel like you have to do everything in one.
Yeah, right.
Like you don't Friday night party. You don't have to meet everybody. You meet a bunch of people, and then you'll meet a bunch of people Saturday, and then you'll meet a bunch of people Sunday, and over the weekend you'll make a lot of connections, a lot of people. But I think the thing that I've always said, and I've told these guys almost every year, is that the biggest reason this became what it is because it's been accepted by the big boys and girls too, ladies. Yeah. But NBC Sports has been the title sponsor for the last 2 years. Mike Clay from ESPN, Brad Evans, Andy Behrens from Yahoo, Dave Richards from Marcus Grant from NFL.com, John Hansen, Bob Harris. I mean, they're all there, and they all love this, and they love interacting with people. And when you meet these people, you're like, oh my gosh, you're like, we're not worthy. It's, but they're like just completely opposite of that. They're just like, oh, hey, no, it's cool. Hey, nice to meet you. How's your site going? Can I come on a podcast? If you need me to come on a podcast. I mean, people are literally like just reaching out to me going, Bob, do you realize Mike Clay and Marcus Grant came on my podcast? Like, I would never even ask them before because, I felt they were too big. Like,
yeah, right. That's cool. That's the best part about it is.
Yeah, everybody's so nice. And another thing that's been very important to me, and I've had a lot of conversations with people like Chris Allen and Marcus Grant, is the inclusivity. Like, there's no what's your color, your race, your sex, your whatever. None of that happens. There is nothing, and if there would be, we would be on it. We had one person last year who mentioned on Twitter that he felt that that there was too many white people, and I'm like, okay. And like Chris Allen and Marcus Grant, like found this guy on Twitter, found him at this thing, talked to him, made sure he felt included, and he apologized on Twitter and said, I am so sorry. I totally misunderstood this situation. Thank you for everybody reaching out and giving me a hug, shaking my hand, introducing themselves. And, that means a lot to me that there's no issues with who you are, where you come from, color of your skin, sexual orientation. Well, we don't care. We're just here for fantasy football.
Fantasy football at the end of the day. Yeah, right. Yeah. You're here for fantasy football and just to have a community to come together.
Right. No, talk definitely a community.
Yeah. Talk fantasy football. Got a shout out to the creator of this network.
Oh, cool. Hey, Ben.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in as well. He played fantasy football, podcast leagues, all that too. So, and everything. So, but yeah, I'm very excited. Like I said, when I reached out to you, I was just asking like some questions just to see like, okay, how much it is and the hotels and flights and all that thing. So I'm getting all that together. That should be no problem. Just getting there and just want to enjoy. I just enjoy as a fan, and hopefully next year we'll get the network to
get a booth, and do some things. Yeah, sure.
Enjoy that. Yeah, that'd be a great. So, but you talked about the magazine. When do you start? When you did with the when do you start? Because like I said, fantasy football never ends. Like it's like we're constantly thinking, okay. The championships are usually in January, so fantasy football championships and playoffs and championship. But are you thinking like immediately after a Super Bowl, like I got to get right onto this and get into it? What's your process when you get into the catalog? The catalog,
right? So I hate to procrastinate. So yes, basically once the regular season's over, regular season stats are available, I start putting, because it's a build process of Excel stats. Excel stuff goes into the profiles, which then go into the profiles in Word, which I write then the profiles and all the words that go with it, put that together, then of course players change and, there's free agency. And so, I start early, but not because it takes that long, but because I want to be ahead of the game. I don't want to have to be panicking on April 28th that I haven't even started yet. Because I want to be ready. I always want to be the first magazine to come out because I don't talk about rookies, or not necessarily, because they have proved nothing consistency-wise in the NFL. So, it's easy for me to come out early because I don't have to write about them. So that I put this out, and, people like that because, hey, I'm just, everybody's hungry for some new stuff. So I usually sell pretty well in May because a lot of people just want to get it early. And I do free updates all if somebody wants a PDF update of everything, I send it to them. In fact, if you go on the website, there's always a code. And then if you buy the book for only $10 more, you get the VIP access for the entire rest of the year. But they get free updates on the book, free updates on the tier draft list that's at the back of the guide. And then access to all the articles and tools on the website. So again, I've always been, I'm not here to make tons of money. I'll charge just enough to like, hey, I make a little bit of money on the side. Great. Yeah, but it's really just about promoting the book, promoting the concept, and people seem to like it. So
it's one of the first publications. It is the first publication that comes out because you go back now you go to the store or whatever, or Barnes and Nobles, and you're like, they come out in June. Usually.
Yeah, usually June. Sometimes most of them come out in early July.
Yeah, early July. So I got, like I said, I've ordered mine to be here today. I'm excited to dive in and get into it. And like I said, my wife, she'll be like, "You ordered it?" And you, I gotta jump on this because reputation to hold up with the fantasy community. I gotta get into the consistency guy. I gotta have it in my hands and start early. And then because we usually do our draft. Last year we did our draft in, I think it was late August. I think it was like that was perfect. Just late August. And with our league, I've been the number 1 seed the last 2 years. So I've always had a target, but playoffs come, and so for some odd reason, I get beat in the playoffs. Like I get a bye, and then I was like, all that work. I'm like, okay, I gotta hone this in. I gotta complete the mission.
Yeah.
So your guy will help me through being more consistent. You know, everybody's always gunning for me, but I'm not the champion. I'm the regular season champion, not the entire champion. So I want to dominate my league. These leagues, So and then you have the website too. On top of that, talk a little bit about the website.
Yeah, I mean, Big Guy Fantasy Sports basically came out of just a need to have that in addition to the guide. I actually had it, I think, going before the guide. I'd written for many, many different sites over my 20 years. And while people, they understand the concept, but I always said that the consistency information is kind of like the French fries in your Happy Meal. It's not the meat and potato, it's not the meat part. It's an add-on. And that's what I tell people. It's like, look, just buy this as an add-on, do your regular, whoever you feel comfortable with, whether it's ESPN or Fantasy Alarm or Football Diehards, it's fine. They have great content. I totally understand. But what you won't find out there in very many websites is consistency information. So get this, add it to your arsenal. And then when you're kind of like, hey, you're doing your own rankings, getting ready for your draft, kind of like, oh, these two guys, oh, wow, this guy's 80% consistent. This guy was only 50 last year. All right.
Yeah, we got guy.
I mean, and that's what I wanted to be. That's what I expected to be. So it's the website just kind of came from that scenario and, as a need to have, but I've also built a lot of cool tools in doing that. And so like there's a consistency report. We update the stats every week. There's also a scenario where, that has like a consistency forecaster, the trends, so you can see week by week who's hot, who's not. There's all kinds of tools out there that we do, and then we put that out there. And then a couple of years ago, we started doing fantasy baseball consistency and head-to-head league. So we just kind of took it to a new level for that. And I have a good friend named Ron Rigney, who's my expert in fantasy baseball, and he's been crushing it. So.
Yes. Love the website too. So I mean, you said you got to have all the experience, 20 years of doing this. So people that are, I'm sure that have supported and everything knows exactly what you said. Consistency. That's what it's all about. And I got a couple more. Just wanted to ask you about. You got the YouTube channel as well, where you do the Fantasy Football Expo. I love the podcast YouTube of getting different people from if it was gambling or or fantasy football or anything like that. Talk about the YouTube and the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I wanted to do this last year with the Expo, but it just never worked out. But my goal is that anybody who is either exhibitor or sponsor for the upcoming Expo, we kind of do an interview with them. And it's kind of like what we're doing here is it's more about talking about them and their history, how they started playing fantasy football, how that led to them, starting to write or creating their own website or doing what they're doing. And then how that led them also then to making that decision to come to the Expo. Why did they come, and what has been their experience there, and what they've liked about it, and tell stories. And it's just a nice little kind of just casual conversation, but it's really more about, so when people come, they can go, oh, I saw that Expo podcast that you did with Bob, and I was intrigued by, whatever their expertise is, whether it's Dynasty or, DFS or whatever. And I like to, now they have names and faces that when they see somebody, they're like, hey, I saw your podcast. I saw, Joe Bond or, or whoever. And now they know who those people are before they get there, and then they're more recognizable. So it's just a thing that I thought it would be good to do. Just to kind of get people's names and faces known before they actually get to Canton in August.
I like the YouTube channel. Just like you said, just to put name to faces and talk about their journey and how they got into He said fantasy sports and football and yeah, so I enjoy that too. So last one I wanted to ask you, got to ask you a fantasy football question.
Gotcha.
Who is the consensus number one pick in drafts? I know it's still early, but I don't know if there's a consensus. I haven't, we usually don't go quarterback, so that's usually not it. But who do you think is going to be the consensus number one? For years, it's always been running back, heavy, still is. But then there was a couple of years there was a wide receiver. And then now when Antonio Brown when he was actually dominating, he was actually number one. It was like, well, we'll take a receiver. That was you can't take a receiver number one. Yes, you could at that time. It was consistent for a couple of years, but then it went back to running back. But who do you think this upcoming season who's gonna be like the consistent?
Well, like you said, there's obviously was a huge shift in the last 2 years between first round being 9 running backs and maybe 3 receivers, and this year it's flipped. Now we're at 9 wide receivers and 3 running backs that I've seen in most of the mocks that I've seen or the mock draft information. And I have to agree with them. I mean, I've always, when the one thing you will notice when you read the guide is that you will see that there are so many more consistent wide receivers, especially when it's PPR scoring, which kind of balances out the running backs and the wide receivers. Because you look at it and you go, well, yeah, why would I not take one of these guys? Because they're so much more consistent and they're scoring just as many points. But yet people were like, but there's so many receivers. You can take so many and why wait? And it's like, no, I disagree with that. And so I know last year, the leagues that I did really well in was the leagues that I drafted at the back end of the first round and took a wide receiver like a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase or, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, those kind of people. And so this year I'm kind of thinking I'm going to go, wide receivers the first 2 rounds, as long as there's 2 that I feel are worthy. My number one pick overall right now, I have Jamar Chase and not Justin Jefferson. And the reason is that Justin Jefferson's, while he was first in total points, his consistency was only 76%. Now that doesn't suck, but that ranks 12th under the wide receivers, not first. Jamar Chase was actually 100% perfect. He was 12 for 12 other than his injury games. So I feel like he's the guy that's going to be there consistently. And if you had Justin Jefferson, you know damn well that if you made it to the finals, he killed you with his 2.5 points.
Yes.
So that scar is still there. So that's the other reason I'm not putting that boy at number 1. He ruined me from winning.
From that. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. And that's what it is. It's like, you're right. It's like before you knew who was a consensus number one. It's it was either CMC or Derrick Henry or so it's like JT last year. He
crushed a lot
last year. Yeah, he crushed it. And McCaffrey was injured 2 seasons ago and missed most of the year. And
Eckler would be an easy choice, but we don't know Eckler's holding out. Eckler's causing a problem. Is he going to play? Is he not? You're going to draft him in the first round. You damn well better be playing for the Chargers.
Because I had Eckler last year. He was I had I can't remember if I had the 4th or 5th pick. It might have, no, I had the 3rd pick. I had the 3rd pick. And, JT and CMC went 1-2. So I was like, okay, I'll take Eckler then. I thought of Justin Jefferson, thought of Cooper Kupp at the time. And, you get to that. Jefferson went next, but it's like Eckler had a tremendous year. He had a great year.
Oh yeah, no, that was a great pick.
He bailed me out of a lot of situations. The Herbert was just dumping the ball to him, and he's just getting in. He started a little slow, but he started getting into the rushing yards, but he's catching out of the backfield. So you got to look into those things. You're right. I think now this season it might be receiver, it might be the number one. Justin Jefferson probably will go number 1, or Jamar Chase or others could go number 1. So. I guess we still have time to kind of dive in.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Most of the running backs are kind of question marks. I mean, Jonathan Taylor should have a good year, should be back to normal. Yeah. But they still basically either have Gardner Minshew or a rookie at quarterback.
Yeah.
So, it's like, okay, so team's going to put 8 in the box and stop Jonathan Taylor. So.
Yeah. And then he got injured last season too. Right. And then, but is Nick Chubb? Is it, we don't really know. CMC maybe, but
CMC was probably the one that'll be the highest in the first round of any, because of where he's at and if he stays healthy, which he did
right,
last
right. And then they're loaded with talent, so you just don't know. CMC, like Shanahan, how he's going to use them. Is he going to use them? Is he going to get 15 carries or is he going to get 8? You just don't know. So, but so I wanted to ask that because this is the first time I really got like diving back into fantasy football. I'll take a little break, but not really. But So, but Bob, this has been I've enjoyed this. Enjoyed this time, and I really appreciate what you're doing and all the things you got going on. But let everyone know first and foremost where they can follow the content, follow you, follow if they want to get into fantasy football or come to the expo, where they can find it and everything.
Got it. So follow me on Twitter at Bob_Lung. You can follow the expo at the FF Expo. The actual website for the expo is thefantasyfootballexpo.com. Go there, click on buy tickets, get your ticket package for only $75, at least until May 27th. You get Hall of Fame ticket, admission to both parties. You get to just hang out, go to the expo on Sunday. You get to go to both Friday and Saturday party. And like I said, then take a tour. You get a Hall of Fame ticket that you can tour the Hall of Fame during the weekend. You get a T-shirt. You get a swag bag, which will have coupons from every website or every booth exhibitor there. So it's usually like $300 to $500 worth of value in Expo. Expo or website. Some give away free books, some give away free subscriptions. But it's a great deal. I think it's like a $500 value for like $75, So definitely come and check it out. It's well worth it. And you just have a lot of fun. You meet a lot of great people, a lot of connections. It's, and whether you're a fan or you're a content creator, don't worry about that. I mean, if you're a fan, I know a lot of people said, oh, there's a lot of content creators. You're right. There is. But guess what? We're all fans of each other.
Right.
So, people buy my book. I buy their subscriptions. I buy theirs. I mean, so we're all fans. It's really 1,000 fans that'll be there. Some of us do take a little bit more, intently. But definitely come, bring your friends, make a weekend out of it, whether it's all guys or bring your spouses. There's lots of fun. I mean, they've got, zip lines and Ferris wheels at the place. If you want to bring your kids, I know a couple guys bring like their 12, 14-year-old sons, daughters, because they play fantasy football now. And I think that's super cool when I see the father-son or father-daughter, and some moms play. I mean, a lot of moms that play. This year we're going to have our first ever Queens Classic, which is 12 of the best females in the country going head to head in same time with our Kings Classic draft. So it's for everybody. So don't just say, oh well, it's not for me. It's not for ladies don't come. Yeah, they do. There's a lot of people come.
Yes.
And they gang up on us. Trust me. They'll come at you as hard as you would come at somebody else about your pick. So they know their stuff. So don't think that they don't. Yeah, think they're female.
Yeah, I've had like some of the fans of the women of fantasy football. I've done a panel of that, and I know you guys had a panel, which I do half of it. Like most of them. Yeah, all of them really. I found all of them that was on the panel, and I've had a lot of them on the show, and they've been on the panel. They've been in the month of August. I do like women in fantasy football. We just talk about just women in fantasy football and how they got into it and things like that, and just that. So they know their stuff.
They do.
That's just
And of course, Big Guy Fantasy Sports. So follow that there too. Get the guide on Amazon. You just type in fantasy football consistency. It'll be the first one that pops up. I guarantee it. So.
Yes. Like I said, I'm looking forward to getting the guide.
Yeah, thank you again for having me, Courtney. Appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. I'm glad that you jumped on. And like I said, I wanted to talk a little about the expo, and I'm very excited to come down there and just to have fun and connect. That's the main thing I want to do. Get some. I'm gonna bring my camera, have some pictures and some video and things like that. I'm very excited just to get some content from that too. So looking forward to it. So thanks again. Appreciate your time and can't wait to meet you in person. And
definitely.
In August. Sure. So all right. Well, thanks again. I'll upload this on all social media platforms and share it with you as well.
Cool. All right.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one and enjoy the weekend. All right. Thanks a lot. And that is a wrap for the show. I want to thank Bob Lung from the Fantasy Football Expo. Get the guide, follow the content and follow the website as well. I appreciate everyone that tuned in. And again, until next time, that's 2 episodes. I want to thank Bob Lung, Fantasy Football Expo. See you guys there. Who's going to be there? Hit me up and let's connect there August 11th to the 13th. Bring your friends, bring everyone. Really appreciate it. Until next time, for the show, follow the content, Roku, BS3 TV app. Peace. God bless.